Once upon a time, it was the month of October, meaning it was also Inktober, which is a completely optional social media challenge where artists create one ink drawing every day for the month. So 31 days in October meant 31 drawing. So this year, I am recreating 5 manga double spreads each week from 5 different series I've read in the past. Previously, I recreated a double spread from Full Metal Alchemist, Inuyasha, and One Piece. Each of these were challenging in their own ways, whether it's drawing a metal arm, doing all that cross-hatching, or those speed effect lines. So in the same vein of drawing from mangas I've read before, this week I will be drawing from, drumroll, One Piece! Wait, that was last week. Death Note! Going to get a head start on the sketch here. As usual, drawing on deleted manga paper in the A4 size, and using this Pilot Eno mechanical pencil in photocopy friendly blue just so the lines won't show up when I scan these. It would be a bit hard to see the sketch on camera, but bear with me here. So I usually draw in manga double spread that come from the series first chapters when the characters are first introduced. However, Death Note is a completely different kind of story than the previous videos, so obviously it's not shonen or action despite it being published in Shonen Jump, which is the same magazine that publishes One Piece, Sakamoto Days, and Jujutsu Kaisen, to name a few. For context, the main character named Light Yagami is a high schooler who stumbles upon a book called a Death Note, in which he can kill anyone as long as he writes their real name in the notebook. So after using this newfound notebook to kill criminals he managed to find on the news, it catches the attention from the police force, specifically a genius detective named L. Yeah, that's just literally his name, the letter L. So the rest of the plot is a very intense psychological game of cat and mouse. Light tries craftier ways to continue killing off criminals and tries to shake the police force from his tail. And L uses his fast and crazy deduction skills to try and keep up. This isn't even spoilers, by the way. This is literally the entire setup that takes place within the first couple of chapters. With that said, by the time this specific double spread takes place in this series, it is already 18 chapters in. It's pretty wild. So back to the drawing here. My initial rationale for putting this as the 4th week of Inktober, so in my opinion, the 4th most difficult manga spread, is from all of the extra background characters and trying to get as close to the art style as possible. My personal art style leans towards a mix of Western cartoons and the 1980s manga style, like Rumiko Takahashi, but Death Note style, which is drawn beautifully by Takashi Obata, is far more detailed and has realistic sensibilities, especially in the face proportion, anatomy, clothes folds, and the shading. If you've taken a quick look at my YouTube channel, thumbnails, or my Instagram page, you'll see I mainly draw simplified characters and girls. So when I picked this double spread over here, it challenged everything I was comfortable drawing. Extreme close-ups of the face, the perspective, the multiple background characters, a crap ton of hair strand, that one old man in the corner. The point is, I'm not familiar with drawing most of the things in this page, so I hope to learn a lot from this recreation. The sketching method I use to draw in the background and the background characters is by using a frame of reference. So this bottom right panel, for example, I drew in L's head first, and then added the characters in relation to L's placement in the original drawing. So, if the student's head over here took this amount of space, then I can use L's characters to map out the student's body and pose as well. I kind of see where the lines meet on L's and then draw the rest of the background character from there. The same goes for the other characters. Light is also another important character in this frame, so I drew him in before I finished the rest of the student, and then I used Light as a frame of reference as well. The exact same technique was used on this master panel up here too. I started with Light's extreme close-up face because that's just the biggest thing on the panel. Then from there, I slowly added the other characters before I added Elle, who's another frame of reference, and then I added the background details and then the old man. Now my drawing isn't a one-to-one copy to the original, and using the frame of reference technique does come with a lot of erasing and redrawing, but it's just a technique I've always used whenever I try to do any kind of master copy or studies. Now, you and I can tell the sketch for this drawing will take a lot longer than usual, so just gonna speed it up a bit. And the sketch phase is done. Honestly, now looking at this, the sketch was pretty difficult. Definitely more difficult than when I sketched the other drawings. So this took around 5 hours at this point. With that said, the next stage is inking. As usual, I'll be using this Kuretake Zig ink. Honestly, any comic ink works. And then I'll be using the G pen to dip into this ink and then use it to draw in the line. It gives me a good control of the line pressure and precision, which is why I always use this tool in most of my inking videos. Like mentioned before, Obata does include a lot of details and shadows, so I'll be sure to capture that in this drawing as much as I possibly can. My usual approach to inking is going from left to right, mainly to give me some structure when deciding where to ink next, as opposed to bouncing all over the place. Also because I'm right-handed and try to prevent smearing as much as possible. I mean, even before that, I actually draw in the borders of the panels first. And yeah, I'm trying to be more intentional with detailed hair strand, as it's easy to get carried away and overdo it. So in the sketch phase, I try to get as close to the original overall shape of the hair, and then I use directional flow to determine how I will draw in the details inside of the shape. So while it's not a one-to-one copy, it still at least carries resemblance to the original, if that makes sense. The same could be said when I ink and color the students with the black hair. I wouldn't be able to get the hair shine to be a perfect copy, but as long as I can follow the general shape, it will still read just as well. The rest of this stage is super straightforward, and I felt I've yapped enough, so just going to add a time lapse here. And we are nearing the end. Now this next part is going to be both the shading and the background effects. I've given up the idea of using screen tone in this drawing since it's already been taking me so many hours. So I'm just going to use the Copic markers for all of the gray areas. And then for the trees in the background, I'll be manually cross-hatching it until it looks like a tree. When coloring in with the gray marker, I'm just paying attention to which section is lighter and which section is darker than the other. Nothing much else to expand on this part of the drawing, so gonna speed things up here until we finish. And we are done. Although this double spread isn't as intense or super detailed or action packed as the ones I've done before, this one still posed quite the challenge for me, and the final result is so very satisfying. I do find it interesting that I was spending far more time on the inks in the previous Inktober drawing, but in this case I went all in the sketch phase. Side note, I also feel like my hands are gaining muscles because I'm not cramping as bad as I did before. Anyway, very happy I did this piece and felt like I learned a ton from drawing things way out of my comfort zone. And that, my friends, marks the end of this video. There is one more Inktober video left in this challenge, so I will see you guys sometime next week. Keep drawing, and hope you all have an absolutely wonderful rest of your day. Bye!